This morning on CBS 12 News, the affordable housing crisis in our area is not getting any more affordable for renters.
New numbers released by the Department of Housing and Urban Development show the median income in Palm Beach County has jumped to $111,800. Last year, CBS 12 News reported the area median income was $104,000, and in 2023, it was $98,300.
And these numbers are used to set rates for affordable and workforce housing units in Palm Beach County. But the Stefany Valderrama reports this morning, these numbers are certainly skewed due to some of the wealthier municipalities. Local leaders tell us there's a better way to set the rates that would actually help our families. Right?
Yeah, so we've been reporting on this, since 2021, which is after that great migration that we had here to South Florida. And that so many people reported my rent has jumped 30 to 40%. So there's a couple moving parts to all of this. First of all, it's no secret that the cost of living is certainly outpacing the salaries here in South Florida. The other part of this is that with the explosion of growth, now it's increasing the area median income, which then in turn jumps the rates for these affordable and workforce housing units. But ultimately, the biggest issue remains that there's just not enough units right now to meet the current need and then the need in the future. So let's dive into my story where we explain a little bit more about why they want to change this formula.
When I first moved here, my rent was $2,100 a month. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
That was 2020. Fast forward to 2025, and she's now paying $3,000 a month.
Have you had to make any adjustments to your lifestyle?
I just work and I don't go out to dinner that much. I just try to be frugal so that I can make ends meet.
Her story is not an isolated incident. Rents in Palm Beach County have jumped exponentially. According to Rent Cafe, the average rent in West Palm Beach is about $2,400. That jumps to $2,800 in Boca Raton. The explosion of growth has many higher income earners relocating to South Florida. So it's not really a surprise the area median income continues to increase year over year. Jonathan Brown, the Director of Housing and Economic Development, says this number does not accurately represent the income of Palm Beach County's population. His team has repeatedly asked HUD and the state to use a different formula, which would drive down the cost of workforce and affordable housing units,
which for us would help to reduce the rental rates approximately 20%.
Based on this year's new numbers, a family of 4 would qualify for workforce housing if they are making anywhere between $70,000 to $163,000. The rent rates would vary depending on income. So for example, a family of 4 making $70,000 would pay roughly $1,578 for a 2-bedroom, while a family of 4 making $163,000 would pay $3,682 for a 2-bedroom.
When you look at the rents that can be charged, you look at them and you say, well, that's not affordable.
The situation is not much better on the Treasure Coast. The average rent in Stewart is just over $2,000, and in Port St. Lucie, the average rent is just over $2,100. Anthony Bellafato tells us his son lives in Stewart, where he goes to school.
He's paying $1,500 a month just for a 1-bedroom.
Can he afford it on his own?
No, I'm paying the rent there.
Bellafato is paying just under the average rent for that area, but after living expenses and utilities, it all starts to add up.
Without my help, he'd be homeless or he'd be on the street.
Yeah, so ultimately, really, the problem is that there aren't enough units right now to meet the need, and that's just going to continue to grow, as our county continue to grow. One of the other things that I feel like we've reported often is how county leaders and city leaders are working with these developers that are building these new units in hopes of subsidizing them with grants and programs so that they can keep those a certain number of units at, not market value, so they can house these people that are qualifying for these programs. And then, another big question that I had is every year this number keeps going higher, which means that they have to reset the rates. So what happens to the families that are already in these units? That was a question that I had for Jonathan Brown, and he says what we try to do is work with these apartment complexes to keep those families in there. So, that also takes some subsidizing as well, I'm sure.
I'm curious, in your conversation with Brown, the federal government is going through some restructuring. Did he say that would impact any of the programs or grants here locally?
Yeah, I actually had the same question for him because usually these numbers actually come out in March and we just got them like on Thursday. So they were already delayed because of the restructuring that's happening in the government. But he says as of right now, programs and grants under his department are not being impacted by the restructuring of the federal government. What's to say for the future, we don't know at this point.
Way to stay on this, Steph, because certainly finding affordable housing for our residents is the most important issue facing a lot of our elected leaders right now, and it is just so difficult. So,
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I'm Jim Grimes. Click like and subscribe buttons if you want to see more stories like this that impact you.